Now, I've talked about the insect tribe a lot, and the important thing is that we want to make sure that everybody understands it's not just an idea, it's a living entity. It has structure, it has form, it has purpose. And I'm going to explain to you in just a minute some of the symbols of the insect tribe, more about this hexagon and how it has to do with the Bee-a-Thon and all the things in the future about connecting people back to the microcosm. There we go, boom, see this live production. Thanks once again to everybody. Diane, Dadashka, you're doing a great job. Cliff, Tyler, Matthias, Adam, everybody here at Davis Media Access has been so supportive of the Insect News Network here, and it definitely takes a community to produce an event this complicated. Now, as I mentioned before, people within the insect tribe, it's a very, very diverse community. They almost defy and expand through every demographic imaginable. It doesn't matter where somebody was born or how they were raised. It doesn't matter their economic level or their level of education. They don't have to be a scientist or an artist. They could just be someone who has an interest, a curiosity, an affinity, or an obsession with the microcosm. And starting about 10 years ago, I started traveling around the world, meeting people, hearing their stories, and documenting their art and their science about how they felt about 6- and 8-legged creatures. Now, as I mentioned before, when we talk about insects, it's sort of talking like countries. It's this huge group of organisms that have diverse forms and body parts and behaviors. Their names can be very complicated sometimes, and not everybody in the insect tribe has to like every insect. Of course, when I talk about the insect ambassadors, there are some species that people love. Butterflies, honeybees, ants. There are people who like spiders and beetles as well, dragonflies, praying mantises. These are the insects that are the ambassadors to the human worlds. They're relatable, they're ubiquitous, they're very understandable. And then we have the ambassadors to the insect world as well. And that's where people who are part of the insect tribe fit in. I've got a book coming out in just a short time this fall called The Insect Tribe, Who, What, Why, where I codify the entire community around a concept called cultural entomology. Now, cultural entomology was a term that was coined about 25 years ago by the curator of the LA County History Museum. So it's a bona fide industry, and cultural entomology explores all these parallels and connections between human beings. So Cultural Entomology Digest actually started and had 6 issues back in the 1990s. And all of the different topics that are covered on Cultural Entomology Digest are not just the sciences, but all of the other fields of human endeavor. Things like music, media, cinema, literature. It can involve topics as diverse as mythology, digital media, engineering, computer software, economics, healthcare, all of the industries that don't typically fit into traditional insect science, but rather are influenced by the insects and inspired by their life cycles. That is what cultural entomology is all about. I like to say that cultural entomology is the original nature show. Back in the earliest days of the human culture, when we were cultivating our food and starting our societies, we had to understand insects. So this issue, this connection and this interdependence goes back from the beginning days of mankind. So I take all of this information, all these facts and figures, and I put it into a structure. And I call it the practical, the compelling, and the sublime. And this next, this is the insect tribe. This is a preview of the book that I'll be releasing very soon, Who, What, Why. And inside the book, I take all of these facts and figures and I put it into 2 lenses. I put structure into the objective lens, which is the research, the anthropology, a lot of art science fusion. And I also look at it through the subjective lens, my own personal experience and my journey, not only through the highest levels of academia, but also through the counterculture, through people who live every day in local communities around the world, also the innovators, the inspirational people at the highest levels of our society in media and economics and business. And I try and take all of their context and put it into 3 platforms. And it's the practical, the compelling, and the sublime. And that's an easy way to remember all of these things. So some of the things we talk about on the Insect News Network are just basic dealing with bugs. It does involve pest control. A lot of it is food production. And then the other part are the parallels, connections, and influences between humans and insects. You've heard before that social insects and human beings have a lot in common. So the term that I'm coining is called co-insectidents. And all of these great examples in our culture, all these great examples in science and media, co-insectidentally have to do with the microcosm. So that's the structure of the insect tribe. And again, it's a 12-hour media, so you're going to hear all about the ups and downs, the ins and outs of this connection between humans and honeybees. We know that there's a crisis coming. We know that there's a juncture, a knothole that we have in how we deal with honeybees, especially on the industrial level. And my next interview is with a man who's absolutely the most informed in the world, one of the wise men of the honeybee world. It's Kim Flodham from Bee Culture magazine. Stay tuned.